Spencer, and Karl comes from an overgrown trailer park built with francophone lumberjacks who were lumbersexual way before it was cool. Since leaving his homeland of Duberville, he's lived in every corner of the province with destinations both big and small. An educated gypsy with a genuine desire to meet people from everywhere, he's also had an opportunity to travel far and wide. As a personal friend and former roommate of Karl, the only thing missing from his autobiography is Karl's love of talking. The guy can talk. True story. He's also a great storyteller, he's got a heart of gold, and today Karl will be sharing one of his many adventures with us, and it's going to be about traveling with purpose. So everybody, Karl Spencer.
He actually adjusted that a bit. Maybe like a little teary there. That part about me having a heart of gold, it's a big lesson. Those are not my feet. I do not do the all-inclusive and stuff. Don't get me wrong, the all-inclusive is great. But it's not for me. I have a lot of buddies who used to do it back in university and whatnot. And then they'd say, "Are you coming with?" I'd say no, because every time they got back, I'd ask them, like, "How was it? And, you were gone for a week. What happened?" And they're like, "It's all a blur." And they can't remember a thing. I don't deal with hangovers all that well. So as a result, I try to stay away from the all-inclusive kind of sit on the beach and do other stuff. So instead, I do very different kind of travel. I'm more into purpose-related travel. I've been to Malaysia, Japan, Barbados, and this particular trip here was a trip to Africa. And basically what we were doing is I was going to bring sweaters to these children. Now you're probably thinking sweaters, Africa, doesn't make sense. I didn't think so either at the time. I'd asked them, like, do I bring bug nets? They said no, they already get a lot of bug nets because there's basically associations who do that spread the net there. But what they really need is sweaters because nobody thinks about that. At night, especially in the desert where they were, in Garissa, which is near the Somalian border, the nights get very, very cold. And unfortunately, they just don't have the clothing to keep them warm at night. Now, to preface this is that I wasn't only going for that purpose. I also went for a trip that was about microfinance. So basically, microfinance is a means to create microloans for people who are in poverty. That way, they can raise money to start businesses locally and start cooperatives, businesses, and a means to get themselves out of poverty. And specifically, I was working in microinsurance. Microinsurance is a means to ensure that if the main breadwinner who took the loan passes away, that the family is not left with that debt. Because the last thing you want to do is take people who are in poverty and then put them in debt. But after that time, working in microfinance, I was fortunate enough to be set up with some very special people. So the man that's beside me there, that man's name is Francis. He's what you call a fixer. And a fixer can basically get you into places that you usually can't get into. So Francis is an ex-street fighter turned pastor who was able to take me just about everywhere in Kenya. Without him, I wouldn't have been able to get into a lot of places. The second is Elliot. Elliot was actually our driver, and basically he drove us around Africa when we needed to get somewhere, but he was extremely educated. And the third was actually a lady by the name of Frances, who was a teacher in Garissa near the Somalian border, who was able to get me the opportunity to meet the children to which I was bringing the sweaters to. This, for example, is one of the places I was able to get into due to the fact that I was with Francis. This is a slum called Kibera. It is the largest slum in Africa. Some people would argue that there's a larger slum in South Africa. The thing is, the one in South Africa actually has funding from the government. Kibera has absolutely no funding. It is one of the most dire places in Africa. But it's amazing how well people do, especially as microfinance comes in and starts helping them start small businesses. This is the complete opposite end of the spectrum. At one point, and I still have no idea how I ended up here, but Francis had gotten me basically at the table with the Minister of Cooperatives in Kenya. It was weird because his office was actually larger than my CEO's here in Canada. So it was just the weirdest thing because I had gone from seeing extreme poverty to sheer opulence all within the same short amount of time. There's extreme disparity between the two, but luckily over time that has been changing. I also took an opportunity, actually I wasn't even going to take the opportunity. A lot of people said go on safari, and I kept on telling Francis, I'm not going on safari. And he said, you're in Kenya, you're an idiot, I'm taking you on safari for at least 2 days. And so we went to a place called Amboseli. We met with the Maasai. And this is actually a jumping competition. I didn't quite win it, but they were so impressed with my skills at jumping as a white man that they offered me a wife. And I told them, I said, no, you know, I think I'm good. And then finally, I had the opportunity to go visit the children in Garissa and get them their sweaters. I spent most of my time there in Garissa to understand basically everything that everybody's going through at that part of the country. There are a lot of refugees that end up in Garissa or basically at some of the border towns if they can't make it into Kenya proper. And it was great, it was awesome. The only thing we had a problem with was that they had told me that the children varied in age between 8 to about 14. What I didn't realize is that their growth is relatively stunted. So as you can see, the sweaters are much larger than they were, and they were small size. But they ended up making a big activity out of it where they would basically whip the arms at each other. And it was a great old activity. Meanwhile, I'm there standing there like, don't get in each other's eyes! Like the last thing I need is an injury because of the sweaters I brought you. But it was a fantastic experience, and I recommend that even though the all-inclusive sounds nice, and there's always an opportunity to go sit on the beach and have a few drinks and little umbrellas, this is an opportunity that everybody should take advantage of at least once in their lives. The only thing I would say is do it with an organization. Not everybody can find a fixer at the end of the day unless you have somebody that can find you a fixer that can actually do the job. I suggest Habitat for Humanity, Rotary, QSO, UNICEF. There's a lot of opportunities out there. And if you do like the all-inclusive, at least once, just once in your life, travel with purpose. Thank you very much.